So a bit late to the party on this one. I haven't seen anyone actually cover it, to be fair, so I guess it doesn't matter. But Liz Truss vows to reclaim Brexit by reviving the vision of the UK as a low-tax Singapore on the Thames, which doesn't really make sense because they've already increased national insurance and they're looking at increasing corporation tax. So how can you be a Singapore on the Thames when you're raising taxes? It's almost like Liz Truss has no idea what she's talking about. And this geezer here, Glenn Owen, also has no idea what he's talking about. So I've read this article and I've just been really confused because I don't know if he's trying to push for Britain, the writer, for Britain to become a Singapore on the Thames, or is that actually Liz Truss's vision, but she doesn't understand what makes Singapore what it is, low tax, low regulation, low workers' rights, etc. I don't know, I'm very confused by this, so we're going to read through this article and hopefully you are not going to share my confusion. But the latest stage in the rise of mistrust, let's not forget here, she was a Remainer who, had to be a turncoat essentially, became a Brexiteer, was put in charge of trade. She's one of the I think she's the highest polling sort of minister within amongst Conservative Party members, as in they favour her the most, because she actually looks like she's going out there and doing good things. Getting the Australia trade deal, which is really bad for the economy, and she's failed to get the America deal, which she said it's not the end all and be all. And then you find out the UK are trying to join NAFTA, or the USMCA as it's called, which Donald Trump tried to change it to. I don't know if that was actually passed. But you've got to think to yourself, what is Liz Truss's endgame? It's probably to be Prime Minister. But she has no idea what she's doing. She really doesn't. There is no vision for Britain, really, apart from being low tax and low regulation. But the other problem they have is they want to be able to balance the books, because they don't believe in high borrowing. So they're going to have to cut spending somewhere in places and raise taxes on poorer paid people, which goes against the Singapore model, really, doesn't it? If that whole thing made sense. So the latest stage in the rise of Liz Truss, they wanted to keep her out of the way of the adoring the adoring local party associations, and setting her up to fail by handing her over to the hostile forces of the pro-EU mandate Foreign Office. So they're trying to say that they've basically given her to a bunch of Remainers in the Foreign Office, when that might be the case. The Foreign Office is a lot of pro-EU civil servants, but I think the main reason they threw Dominic Raab to the wolves essentially is that because Dominic Raab was very lazy and very stupid. He was on holiday when he would have been warned not to go on holiday during the fall of Afghanistan, where there were British people trapped there and needed to get out, and Dominic Raab was sunning himself in Crete, where he was like, I wasn't on the beach, the sea was closed, or something. Like, what are you talking about? He was in the select committee, he got absolutely grilled. And it was grim. Like, my man was turned to a fillet, man, a fish fillet. It was bad. So, this kind of point here is a load of rubbish. I mean, maybe this is Boris Johnson trying to kind of push down Liz Truss's favourability, but I think Liz Truss is smart, in quotation marks, enough to look like she's the pro-Brexiteer and she's the flag carrier who's going to make Brexit work. They've given her a very senior position in the Foreign Office, and I don't think a lot of Tories pay too much attention to foreign affairs. No doubt she'll probably do a better job than Raab, because let's not forget Raab is very stupid. He said, Britain is particularly reliant on the Dover-Calais crossing. Well, duh. There's going to be a lot of trade going through there. It's a massive road, isn't it? I don't know. Anyways, these bullets are, as usual, bouncing off Liz Truss, who professes herself delighted by a portfolio, as she believes gives her the perfect platform to mould her vision of a post-Brexit Britain. So her main goal is going to be to not massively get trade deals, but to have good relations with other countries, which is something Dominic Raab really failed to do. The Tory party's first female foreign secretary, it's another argument why representation isn't the end-all and be-all, really, is understood privately to share the dissatisfaction of backbenchers who complain the reality of the UK's departure from the EU falls short of the buccaneering picture portrayed by its architects. But the issue is that she was one of the ones who said that they're lying. She was one of the ones who said they're lying, and her problem will be she can't make Brexit work. She won't be able to do it because you can't do it. You can't make Brexit work. Fundamentally, it doesn't work. So The key issue is that she will fail in her job, but if she keeps the optics good enough, she'll be fine. Instead of witnessing Britain's transformation into a low tax, low regulation Singapore on the Thames, they have seen the imposition of a new £12 billion annual levy to fund health and social care, not a levy, a tax. National insurance is a tax. And have been told to prepare for a corporation tax hike from 19% to 25%, which isn't very Singapore of you, is it? By 2023, and grow restive over the speed at which EU red tape has been cut, which is happening now. You know, Lord Frost announced a bonfire of EU regulations, and he's even asked the public, you know, what do you want to get cut? And no doubt there'll be a lot of calls into the James O'Brien show about it. But point being is that how can she try and push to be Singapore on the Thames when they're pushing taxes on the poorest people? It doesn't make sense. Ms Truss also impatient to reclaim Brexit, with Britain becoming an incentivising hub on the edge of Europe, which could beat France and Germany in the battle for billions in international investment through low taxes and the removal of Brussels' regulatory shackles. Now, Britain has fallen down. I think foreign direct investment has gone down over recent years, I think since the referendum, and we are now second to France in Europe. Now, lower taxes and lower regulations, that does create some incentive for certain companies. The issue is that we don't have free access to the EU anymore, so we might become a good breeding ground for things like research, potentially, but when it comes to actually creating the goods, they're not going to make them in the UK. They're going to make them probably in the EU or a third world country. Essentially, it's not going to happen here. The research might get done here. The expertise is definitely in the UK. But when it comes to the actual manufacturing of goods and things like that, where the actual money is made, that's not going to happen. They might move more R&D places here through the lower taxes and regulations. But overall, you know, they're going to be setting up PLCs in like the Cayman Islands or wherever they do tax evasion. So that's not going to work. Plus, you can't compete with Singapore. They have incredibly low tax rates. That's one of the reasons why Dyson left the UK, especially if you're going to push for a 25% corporation tax rate. They're not going to come here if you do that. As one ally puts it, Liz wants to focus more on what she calls economic diplomacy, with Britain becoming more competitive in the global marketplace and promoting free enterprise across the world. Well, it doesn't make sense if you're going to push corporation tax to 25%. That's going to be a huge problem. You know, you might be able to push lower regulations, but, you know, as that Miley Cyrus song goes, you know, there's always going to be another mountain. There will always be a country with lower regulations than the UK. So this doesn't work. This doesn't make sense. Some senior government figures are concerned by her promotion. However, one source saying Truss will need a strong team around her. The Foreign Office civil servants killed Raab, and they could do the same to her. Let's not forget, I think the reason why, again, they threw Raab to the wolves is he's incredibly lazy and he's not very bright. I think that's why they did it. Preparations have been underway for several weeks, with the Prime Minister and former Daily Mail Telegraph columnist taking what one source described as a journalistic approach, ringing around trusted advisors and scribbling down notes. So what he wants is Liz Truss to get, you know, some prominence within, you know, she wants, basically what they want is Liz Truss to fail because he sees her as a potential leadership rival. Because again, I think her favourability in the Tory party is around 60%, which is very, very high. The solution making him minister for, this is about Michael Gove, so they wanted Michael Gove to actually get a role, so he's the minister for levelling up, which he's going to inevitably fail at, because levelling up is going to fail because the funds aren't there to do it. But we go back to this article. How long is it? Sorry, it's just comments. We go back to this point about Liz Truss, which is if that's what she wants to reclaim Brexit as being a Singapore on the Thames, countries are going to look at our tax rates, they're going to look at our regulations, which are still going to be higher than other countries, even if we start doing GM foods and stuff, because the Americans already allow that. Our corporation tax rate is going to be 25%, which is still higher, I think, than the Yanks. So overall, like, you can't try and pretend you're a Singapore on the Thames by just gutting regulation. You have to gut taxes, which the Tory government aren't going to do, because they're desperate now to balance the books. They're desperate to, because these guys are Thatcherites, so they are going to keep raising taxes on lower middle class people because that's all they know how to do. They don't understand the fundamentals of economics, not really. But anyways, we're going to leave it there. You know, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.